Good evening, and welcome to the Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 meeting of the Wakefield School Committee. We had an executive session that began at 6:30. We've just concluded that and come out to rejoin the meeting rather in full open session. So as we do with all meetings, if I could ask everyone to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to read, as we do it at all meetings, the mission statement. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident, lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests. Item number 6 on our agenda is a public comment time. Any members of the community, whether they be here or on Zoom, wish to address the committee on any matter, may do so. Any members seeking to speak to the committee about a topic? No one on Zoom? Okay. Moving on. Number 7, the Student Advisory Council, being that today is a snow day, a disappointing snow day, I would probably add, but nonetheless a snow day. Our students are not with us this evening. So, item number 8, consent agenda. We have a motion.
Yes.
Amy.
Move that the school committee approve the minutes of the February 7, 2023 school committee meeting and accept the minutes of the February 13, 2023 school committee student services subcommittee meeting, the February 14, 2023 school committee policy and communications subcommittee meeting, and the February 16, 2023 school committee finance and facilities subcommittee meeting as presented.
Second.
Second motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. I would like to call to the community, the members' attention that Dr. Piscato is joining us via Zoom. So it's not just the members that you see here in the studio tonight. Dr. Piscato is with us online, as is School Business Administrator Fagna and School Committee Clerk Abouyet. Item 9, chairs, comments, and action items. I would just make 2 very brief notes as appears on the agenda. Just wanted to inform the community that the School Committee Labor Relations Subcommittee has been in active negotiations with Unit A of the Wakefield Teachers Association, Wakefield Education Association teachers. We've had 4 meetings now in the last 2 months or so. They have gone very well. They've been cordial and appropriate. Had a good, healthy exchange of ideas, and looking forward to some pretty positive outcomes. Certainly more to follow on that, but a healthy exchange of ideas is underway. So we're really looking forward to continuing that work. And obviously, just to remind the community. Upcoming in 2 weeks now, Saturday, March 11, is the townwide vote on the new high school proposal. Certainly encourage everyone to get out and vote, regardless of which side of the issue that you may be on. Obviously, the school committee has unanimously endorsed that proposal over and over again, so we very much encourage an affirmative and a yes vote on that matter. But certainly encourage all members of the community to get out and vote, cast their ballot on Saturday, March 11, 2023, balloting to occur all day at Galvin Middle School gymnasium. Okay. Item 10, superintendent's comments and reports recommendations. Dr. Lyons.
Thank you very much. And so I would just like to give a quick update, and I can turn it over to Christine in a moment, just to let everybody know about upcoming dates that are really critical to the budget. In our next school committee meeting on March 14th, we will be doing an initial presentation of our proposed budget for FY24. Following that meeting on Tuesday evening, the 14th, March 14th, on March 16th, we're going to do an overview for the Finance Committee. And then on the 28th will be the school committee public hearing and school committee vote on that evening as well. Following those 3 meetings, we will be making presentations to town council and again to FinCom. And so I just wanted to kind of note those important dates coming up, especially the next 3. We have school committee, FinCom, and then school committee again, where on the 28th, we will have our public participation and our final vote on our budget that we are presenting. And so, Christine, anything else that we have to update at this point?
No, I would just like to recap that this is, it's a culmination of really 3 or 4 months of work. And I just want to thank all the stakeholders that really have contributed to the conversations, answered the budget surveys, come to our meetings, attended the Zoom meetings, and really this book that was put together is a culmination of really 4 months of work. And again, it's a draft, it's a proposed budget, it's a conversation for school committee. And, I think it's something that, it's a lot of work and we're really proud of. And I think that we're going to really have some good conversations in the next 30 days. I just also would like to touch upon that we also got our preliminary Chapter 70 money number from the state, which was really timely for these conversations for the town of Wakefield. We're seeing almost a 9% increase in Chapter 70. I think to be exact, it's 8.92% increase from 23 to 24. And what that means for Wakefield is really about how to afford the education for the students of Wakefield. To help fund this budget that we're putting together and to help kind of guide these conversations about, what we're put into this budget and how to fund it. So, a lot more meetings to come, but it's really, I'm really kind of proud of the work we've done and the conversations that have gone into it.
Thank you very much, Christine. We'd like to also thank everyone that participated in the surveys that we put out. We put out a survey for parents. We had almost 600 parents participate in the survey, 567 to be exact. We also had close to 200 faculty members participate in another additional survey as well. So we will summarize kind of the highlights of that information in our presentation on the 14th. So more to follow on that. Thank you so much, Christine. Moving ahead, I'd like to turn it over to Kara to talk a little bit about curriculum for our visual and performing arts.
So I'll just provide an introduction. We have our Director of Visual and Performing Arts, Tom Baker, here, along with elementary art teacher Amy Drago and high school music teacher Anna Morel. And they're here tonight to help just kind of provide an overview for the committee. The department has been working really hard for the last 2 years, Tom, right? I would say, if not longer. To do a thorough curriculum review of visual and performing arts K through 12 based on the new art standards. So the group led by Tom has worked closely, and tonight is just really an opportunity for them to share out the work that they've done and what our curriculum looks like K through 12 at this point. So I can turn it over to Tom.
People at home will see the slides. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you. It's good to be here again. It's been a while. Again, I just want to introduce you with me tonight. Amy Drago is a Greenwood and Dolbear visual art teacher, and Anna Morel is our Wakefield High School choral director and music teacher. And we're just here to review the process, the establishment of the standards from the national and the Massachusetts level, what we've done here in Wakefield, and where we are now in our curriculum. Next slide, please. So the timeline, back in 1995 was the first set of art standards adopted in Massachusetts, and then 4 years later, the second set of framework was adopted and identified standards in dance, music, theater, and visual arts. That was the set of frameworks that we worked with for almost 15 or over 15 years. It was done in 1999, a huge update, and then really wasn't touched at the state level for many years. In 2014, the National NAFME, National Association of Music Educators, as well as the National Association of Art Educators updated to a new set of core art standards nationally. And then in 2017, Massachusetts began development on our new standards based on those core standards. And finally, in 2019, the state, with Jeff Riley, adopted the new Mass Curriculum Framework for the Arts that we are now using. So 20 years later, the state updated the arts curriculum. Slide, please. So our timeline. In late 2017, the music department provided some feedback to the state around what they called the guiding principles for effective arts education. They shared those out. At that point, I was going to some basic, like that initial ideas and concept meetings with other arts directors from around the state. And they asked us to share with our teachers and to give the state feedback. So we took advantage of that. The music department met and went over those guiding principles and shared our feedback with the state. And then in 2018, before they were officially adopted, the drafts were out there. It was just at that point about process. So we started working in the spring of 2018 on those standards, starting to unpack them, look at them. What do they mean? There was a big difference between what those were and what were from 1999, the way that they broke down and what they were discussing in them. So we started to work at that point in some professional development time that we had. And then in March of 2020, COVID hit. And I think it's important to discuss that not only for as to why we're, 2022 is when we finish this, but also I don't think I've been here since that. And the teachers, art music teachers, deserve credit beyond belief as to what they had to do at that time. For the 2021-22 school year, all elementary specialists went remote. And for a department K through 12 that's really based on performing and presenting, we take pride in the fact that our music classes are based around performing music. We don't sit kids in a room and say, here, let's learn about Bach and let's do worksheets, right? Like there's a lot of performing that's happening in our music classrooms. And the same in our art classrooms, the collaboration, K through 12, and the presenting of work is really the core of what we do. So for 2021-22, all those elementary specialists had to go remote. And they were remote for the majority of the year, while we were in doing that kind of hybrid model that we were doing at that time, they stayed remote. At Galvin, all the performance ensembles did not run for that year. They were taken out of the schedule. And the teachers were forced to create a completely new 5th and 6th grade music curriculum from scratch. They had nothing. But they were put into teams at that point to fill out the schedule, and they had to create a brand new curriculum. And at Wakefield High School, half of the performing ensembles were eliminated from the schedule. And it wasn't until March that we were doing any singing or performing of instruments in the day, because the state said we couldn't. And then in March, we started to go to the gym, and we're measuring 10 feet apart. I mean, but we got to go back at that point to do it. But it was a complete pivot in everything that these teachers did, and they deserve a lot of credit for that year. And I've never been able to be here and so I know some of you weren't on the committee at that point, but I think it's important for the community to know the work that was done, and the effort that was put in, along with this presentation where that curriculum development that we were originally working on stopped for almost a year. However, by the end of 2021, when we were prepared to be going back to normal for 2022 in the fall, we started to pick this back up, refresh ourselves on the standards, get back to moving on this curriculum, and by last June, we completed our first draft. And I think it's important to say draft because we're still working on it, and you're going to hear from myself and Amy and Anna that it's a continual process. This is not a completed document that we're not working on all the time. We're continuing to develop and adapt what we're doing in the classrooms. But we were proud to get that initial draft completed in June of 2022. Slide, please.
Tom, can I ask you a question? So does that have to be submitted? That I appreciate it's never complete, right? It's always evolving, but is there any sort of a required submission that requires a milestone of some sort, or is it really just
So
up to us?
you're going to see two curriculums, two maps today, and then I'm currently putting all of the maps K through 12 into one big PDF. That once that's done and completed, the table of contents, and I'll make it look pretty. You'll see all of that. But there's no. The only adoption is, it's definitely school by school, just like any other curriculum.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll see that when that's all together. So the organization of the state curriculum, they start with 4 clusters. So there's a creating category, performing / presenting. So the presenting is more towards the arts and media arts, and the performing is more towards the dance, theater, and music portion of the curriculum. Responding and connecting. Under each of those clusters, there are 11 practices, 3 under creating, performing, and responding, and 2 others under connecting. Those practices are the same K through 12 in every part of the curriculum. Things like organize and develop artistic ideas and work, select, analyze, and interpret artistic work, and synthesize and relate knowledge and personal aspects to make art or music. So those are the same K through 12 in every cluster and every class. And then under each of those practices is one standard, and that is grade dependent and course dependent. Next slide, please.
Tom, can I ask, can you go back a slide?
Go back a slide, please.
I'm sorry, I think it's important because I don't know if everyone kind of gets this, but could you just say a little bit about responding in this within the cluster?
Sure. So the responding category revolves around how students take in the information and then either respond through writing, through projects, through verbal responses. The instruction is differentiated and the assessment is differentiated based, obviously, on the projects that are happening and what the teachers are doing for those students. But that's where that responding piece comes into play.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Next slide, please. And then the last organizational piece, and the next slide really puts it into detail. You'll be able to see it better for those visual learners like I am. They break it down by a grade level dyad, so pre-K through K, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7, and 8. And then at the high school level and for performing ensembles in music, they break it down by a level. So they go everywhere from novice, which is what they consider kind of those middle school performing ensembles, all the way from foundation, proficient, and advanced. They list foundation as kind of those introductory high school courses. Proficient is what's built on foundations and focuses specific aspects of the course discipline. The advanced classes are the classes that prepare students for post-high school studies in that topic or in that course discipline. And the thing that the state suggests and allows us to do, which is really helpful, is allows you in that section to kind of mix standards. So you could say that if you have a class and you're maybe foundational in creating, but you feel like the class is more towards the proficient standards in presenting and performing, you can mix and match in what's best for that class in those times. Next slide, please. So this is just an example of everything that I just talked about in a visual component. So it gives the grade, the discipline, lists the cluster that connecting. So in this example is connecting that cluster that it's there. The practice, which again are the same for every standard, K through 12, those 11 practices. You have an ability to identify standard identifier. So in that case, like it shows, okay, grade 5, 6, it's dance, it's the connecting cluster, and then the practice number 11. So you can organize that way as you list. The content standard is what changes for every class and for every level. And then they will give connections to other state standards. So in this case, it shows a connection to the high school social studies, or the social studies standards, Massachusetts social studies standards in this example. So they give connections when it's optional, but they do give a good number of connections to kind of help make those connections for you in this process. Next slide, please. So with all that information, we took what we had, and these maps are the maps that have been provided by the department, by the district, that you'll see in a lot of other classes as well. I know the curriculum coordinators use these curriculum maps, so you've seen this before. Stage 1 has the desired results with those bullets underneath. Stage 2 is the assessment. Stage 3, the learning plan. To me, the most important part of this is stage 4, that reflection piece. This is what makes these documents stay relevant and make them a live document. So when a teacher goes through a section and they, as we're living with this curriculum now, they can look at a section that they just taught and say, you know what, this worked, this didn't, this project worked, this didn't. They can go right into that box and it's there, and it's a live document that they can use at the end of the year when we reflect on the process that we've gone through and make changes that we need to make. They have those notes. We all know how difficult, I don't know about, like for me, it's hard for me to remember what I did yesterday morning. So to think about when you're teaching, for example, Amy's teaching 5 different grade levels. So she's using 5 different maps with all of those projects on a daily basis to be able to have the option and the opportunity to reflect in the moment and then be able to reflect back on that come the end of the year or halfway through and make those changes, I think is what keeps this as a live moving document. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over. So again, what you're going to see up here is what all of our documents look like. I'm still completing the whole PDF, and we're still working through a lot of it as well. During our PD this year, we have opportunities for vertical alignment time. So looking at that kind of 4 through 5 piece, what's missing, kind of those connections there, and then the 8 to 9 piece as well. We spent time, we have that PD session coming up later this month, as well as some reflecting on kind of the work that we've already done this year, as this is the first year we're really living with this. So Amy?
Can I ask you one more question, Tom?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
when do you expect to complete it, so to speak? What timeline was?
I mean, I just need to put all the PDFs together, so it's
Okay.
literally just, I just have to sit and do it, and you'll see it, and then we're just gonna keep working at it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm just going to start with sort of the process that Megan Pierre, the other elementary school visual arts teacher, and I did when we were kind of given this task. Is we just kind of sat down and had a conversation and said, what are you doing? What am I doing? And we just started kind of making a brainstorming document of all the things that we were doing. Where were the connections? Where were we finding commonalities between the 4 different elementary schools? Because some of the bigger schools and the smaller schools are different animals, so some things are done differently at the different schools. And then we were also trying to unpack the Massachusetts state standards. And we also talked about, we have different teaching styles, so we wanted to be able to incorporate those as well. So we decided we needed to make this document as flexible as possible because it is a living, breathing document and it will be changing. We also started the process when we had a 6-day cycle, and now we have a 5-day cycle. So that was kind of a big pivot for us as well. So this is only the 2nd year that we've had a 5-day cycle, and we're already finding that some of the things that we put in when we had a 6-day cycle is that reflection piece. We need to look at it and look through it again. So as we go through this, you'll see all the standards. You'll see some of them are bolded. So those are the ones that we know that we are hitting in 1st grade. The ones that are not bolded, because it's a 1st to 2nd grade, those are the ones that we will hopefully hit in 2nd grade. And if we don't do that, then we need to go back and we need to revisit this again. If you could scroll down. So the enduring understandings, those are sort of like the big ideas for that incorporate the whole year, and then the essential questions, really getting at the studio habits of the mind. Where do artists get ideas? What do artists do? And how do they decide what materials they're going to use for their best work? And then the content, what will students know? Skills, what will students be able to do? So that really gets at, the different concepts and techniques that we are trying to get through in the 1st grade. Performance tasks, artwork, obviously, is 1st grade, so we're just having, conversations with our students. Other evidence, Artsonia, we both have Artsonia accounts where it's, we upload student artwork, parents can see it, grandparents can see it. Those Artsonia accounts actually go with them to the middle school teachers use them as well. Teacher observations, and we also have sketchbooks and portfolios at the elementary level. Obviously, key learning events, they completed the kindergarten art curriculum. Some of our resources that we use, video demonstrations, we really started using those over COVID, and it's wonderful that we now have an elementary art Google Drive we both have access to that we can upload videos that we find helpful for the students. Studio thinking from the start, really incorporating the studio habits of the mind, even starting in kindergarten. And then our reflection piece is currently blank because we haven't done that yet for the end of the year. That's it.
Anna?
Okay. So our process was similar. I was working with the 5 through 12 music teachers, and we began by really a pretty in-depth conversation about the standards because they were so different from the standards that we had already been working with for so long. So we spent a long time talking about them and trying to decide, what we are doing and how that connects to what was in the standards. And a lot of our standards overlapped, which was tricky to kind of parse out because we wanted to make sure that our maps were clear. But ultimately, we are doing a lot of the same things 5 through 12, just in different ways. So we really spent a long time on that. And then we were also collaborating a lot, but in addition, we're all kind of singletons, except for Mike Morrell and Jenna Demento, who co-teach. We really do very, very much our own thing in our classes. So there was a lot of time where we were just sitting and working and looking at what we're doing in our classes and trying to put it into the maps. In terms of this map, this is a treble choir map. Treble choir is a 5-credit honors ensemble at the high school. And it's grades 9 through 12. We meet 5 out of the 6-day cycles, so that's where you get the 150 days. Actually, if you could scroll back up, that would be great. Yeah, that's perfect right there. So enduring understandings, all of what we do in music is really based around performance. So this is a lot about, teaching each singer to find their own vocal technique and to really master that, appreciation of core literature. These are really similar. If you look across all of our maps, 5 through 12, it's very similar, but again, we're doing it in different ways. And then the essential questions, singing independently and really just the why of choral music. You can scroll down, please. Thank you. And then the content, this is where we're really overlapping, but just at different levels. Learning how to read, learning how to create great tone, learning how to blend. A lot of those things happen 5 through 12, but just in different ways. And the skills in a similar way. So I think if you look across my maps at the high school, they're all very similar. Just the difference is going to be the level. Very, just we went through for the performance tasks, just right there is perfect. The performance tasks, and we listed, everything we do, and then just, basically copied and pasted it into our performance task, because that's what we do, is performance tasks all the time. Everything we're doing is performing in some way. Yeah, you could just scroll down a little bit more. Yeah, that's great. In terms of assessment, we do, obviously, live performances, concerts. The students do self-assessments, they do self-reflections. We're always constantly doing informal classroom observation. This is some of the responding that Dr. Lyons was talking about, where sometimes it's just verbal reaction, how did that sound? How can we make it better? That kind of thing. And we also do video self-assessments and teacher self-assessments, or teacher video assessments as well. In terms, yeah.
Yep, that's great. And then this is just very detailed key learning events and instruction, what happens day to day, really, month to month. The resources, a lot of the resources that we use our own resources, things that we've developed over the course of the year. The repertoire is going to vary every concert. We are, very rarely repeating the same pieces. So that is the bulk of our resource is our music that we choose. We also have some technology. So we use Sirening Factory. We all use Google Classroom. We all use Noteflight. And those are some things that are similar K to 12 or 5 to 12 as well. And then at the bottom, yeah, you can keep scrolling. There's lots of detail here. Yep, that's great. This is what we just did actually in our last PD day. We spent some time looking at our maps, which we spent so long creating, and then comparing them to what we're currently doing. And I think this speaks to what Tom was talking about. The reflection. Actually, treble choir is a little bit different than the other groups, but I would say the reflection is just really we're not where we used to be. We're still recovering, and just this particular map, I think just the students that make up this particular ensemble are really, this group is in great shape, but I think across the board, our students are just behind, and they're gonna, we'll come back and they'll recover. I think there's still things that if you went through this map and you said, are you doing everything on this map? We're just not, because of what we had to do during the pandemic. But we will get back there. We will keep growing and keep working. And, the students are all in. So that's what really matters.
Thank you, Anna. So just some of my final thoughts going through what we just presented, starting with some of the challenges. Because I want to end positively, right? So Amy brought it up a little bit. The changing schedules is a challenge that we have, especially at the elementary level. Last year to this year was the first time that I can remember where the elementary art and music teachers were teaching the same classes the same amount of time in a year. So, for example, 1 year they'd have in a 6-day cycle, they'd have the second grade class twice a cycle. And then in the next year, it would change and they'd have the second grade class once a cycle. Well, when you look at what that means, you're reducing that curriculum 50%. And in that year where it was the second grade class once, this first grade class was twice. Well, now you're increasing another class 50%. So you're constantly moving things around and trying to adapt to what you're teaching year to year. So this is the first year that it's been consistent. So that's helpful, especially in the first year that we're implementing the schedule. But that's been a challenge. Class sizes at the middle school is a challenge curriculum-wise. When an 8th grade art teacher has a section of 15 and another section of 32, that's a different curricular experience for those kids in both of those sections. So to try to have one curriculum and stick to that to make that work, that's tricky at that point. Same, in the middle school choir right now, there's a 5th grade choir section with 30 and another one with 70. It's difficult to be able to do the same things when you have a section of 30 and then a section of 70 with one teacher. When it comes to kind of some budget concerns, it's not as much of a concern as when you look at our budget lines and you see the supply lines. The supply lines for the music and art department are really our curriculum lines. Everything we do, it's consumables. Consumable materials and visual art. The sheet music that Anna was talking about for the music classes are really our textbooks, but they change every year. The instrument needs change every year, and we need to provide for those students. Staffing, when you think about staffing, we serve every student K through 8 in the district, music and art, so every student twice. And then 75% of students in the high school are in music and art classes. And we do that all with 18 FTE. So it can be a challenge. And luckily we have fantastic teachers that step up to that challenge, but it's something to think about when we're talking about creating new classes or trying to update so that kids are getting, for example, more digital art, which is a big push right now. So, and it's great and it's important, but where does that come from and who's teaching it, and when all of the teachers are already completely packed with classes of, 30 kids. So the successes, which are huge successes and should definitely be targeted and highlighted, the professional development time over these 3 years has been meaningful and targeted to content area. And that's something I'm very proud of. That's not always easy to do when districts or schools are adopting new math curriculum and new ELA curriculum, so those classroom teachers have to spend PD time on those things. So what do you do with your art and music teachers? They're not teaching math, they're not teaching ELA. A lot of times they get kind of pushed off to the side or not thought about. This has really allowed us to focus on content for those teachers, which has been a huge success.
And in addition, can I just interrupt
Yeah,
for a second?
absolutely.
In addition, just that time to collaborate with our colleagues. I've never spent this much time with my colleagues. I work basically alone at the high school, and it's just wonderful to have that time. So it's been really great.
Right. So that creativity and collaboration is another huge piece of this. I only a little part of it because I only teach the one class at the high school, but the K through 12 art teachers wrote this curriculum. This isn't none of this is purchased, right? We're not bringing in 3 different models and testing them for months at the elementary level and making a choice as to what we wrote this curriculum. We take the standards and we write the curriculum. So it really, the pros of that are huge. It allows for a lot of creativity. We get to directly write the curriculum for our students. What do our students need? What do we want to work on? What's our philosophy in this department? And write the curriculum for them. So it's a lot of work, but it really gives our teachers the freedom to do that and to best serve the students at Wakefield. It allows us to try things. And if something doesn't work, you put a little note in that reflection piece and you go back and you make a change and you use a different material or you try a different piece or you work around to still get through those same content and skills, but in a different way. And it gives us that freedom to try things that will work for our students.
So is it fair, Tom, to say that literally every year you're customizing the curriculum for the type of
100% accurate, Michael.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. And the collaboration piece, we were able to meet 5 through 12, sometimes K through 12, but even when we weren't meeting in person, the K through 4 curriculum would be sent to the high school art teachers to look at and to proofread, so that when you live with something for so long and you're constantly looking at it, you start to overlook some things. You don't, that proofreading piece was there, but it always allowed us to engage K through 12 so that things work together and people had say and could give comments and feedback every level of the curriculum. And like I said, you still have to focus on that vertical alignment piece between schools, that 4 through 5 and 8 through 9. That's really where our next step is. And the last success to me is the cost. The school district, town of Wakefield, paid about $800 for this curriculum to be adopted and written in this district. We had one summer visual art workshop where teachers were paid to work over the summer. That's it. Everything else has been done on PD time with resources that we have, with our creativity, their work ethic, their ability to work together and to make this happen. So the cost to the district, I think, is a positive. Next slide, please. So the last slide that I have, I need to thank Kara through this process for being a sounding board for me when we've had some struggles and we had to kind of take the step away and do the COVID thing. It was really frustrating, like it was for everybody, but we were really on a roll and we had to just kind of put it to the side, and that was hard for me. And And so Kara's always been a great sounding board to help us through this process, giving us the freedom to take the time and have the time to work and get this all done. So she's been a great support for that, and I really appreciate her for that. And finally, to all the teachers that are on the board there, these are the teachers that wrote this curriculum. These are the teachers that have worked for years. Some of them are no longer teaching with us, but they've all had input into what is in the work and what's being taught to the students of Wakefield. And for my opinion, in my opinion, it is a huge W for the Wakefield students to have such knowledgeable and caring teachers. I would put this department against any others in the state. I think we're really lucky to have the teachers that we have for our students here. As a parent of 2 students in this district, I couldn't ask for better music and art teachers to teach them daily. So I'm proud of what they've done, and I'm proud of them, and I'm proud of this department. So
Should be the product, if I can use that term. It's been exemplary for years. It continues to amaze me for a small community what art, music, talent comes out of us. A lot of it goes to everybody on that list as well,
Agreed.
but it's incredibly impressive.
appreciate
Well done.
that. Thank you. So that's all we have. Sorry, it was a little longer than 20 minutes, Kara. I apologize. I tried.
Any questions for?
I have a question. Could you just speak to about the scheduling and the requirements? Because I know they change, like when you're at elementary, everyone gets it once a week now. But then when you go to the middle school, if you take 2 music, you don't have to take art. So I didn't know what the requirement was there. And then in high school, is it all electives? I guess if you could just speak
Sure.
as a student develops in the
Right.
school
So
system.
the elementary at this point, it's once a week, except at the kindergarten level, the kids get music twice a week at the kindergarten level. And then at the middle school level, every student takes a performing ensemble, band, chorus, or orchestra in 5th and 6th grade. And then in 7th grade, they can then make the decision to continue in the performing ensemble or take a music appreciation class, which is a semester long class if they don't want to be a part of the performing ensembles anymore at that point. What you're referring to as far as if you take 2, so it's not a hard and fast rule around if you take 2 you don't get X, Y. It really comes down to really class sizes at that middle school level and where the kids fit if they take those 2. And students can choose to take 2 performing ensembles in the middle school level, knowing that they will miss some other specialist.
Yeah.
At the high school level, it is all electives. However, there is, as a mass core school, which we are for the high school, there is a 1-year art requirement to graduate. So whether that's a visual art, a music class, performing art, there's also a few theater electives at the high school, or we allow culinary to also fill that requirement when the students become juniors. So there's an art requirement 1 year to graduate from Wakefield Memorial High School.
Thank you.
But other than that, it's electives.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Stephen?
Yeah, so I'd first off start by saying just thank you, because I've, like Mike said, I've seen sort of the product that comes out of your department, and it's exemplary. The music program is part of the reason that I moved to Wakefield. I don't know how many people heard the story, but like I was driving to Wakefield, I saw that we had a fantastic marching band. I always figured if you can put a band on a field in funny uniforms, you get books in the library. And so it's the program, as long as I've lived here for the 16 years, everything I see come out of the schools on every level is top notch. And my kids experience it as well. I think they have the same art and music teachers that yours do, Dom, and great things going on there. As we're sort of coming out of the pandemic, and we talk about social emotional learning, art and music play such an integral part in that. I know you're feeling that, and so also a thank you there. It's a big deal. I'm curious about sort of, I guess it goes to scheduling. I'm curious about students that have like a dual discipline, and how you sort of handle their scheduling challenges, because I know there's a lot to fit in a day. So how do you sort of work with students that maybe have a passion for choral and then have a passion for like orchestra? Are there ways that they can sort of make their schedules work so that they're able to sort of have both of those things?
So at the middle school, they can choose those two performing groups if they have that passion in those two groups. It is a choice of over something else, but you know they have to. There comes a point where you got to make that choice. At the high school, it's a little harder because the electives are a little less, but we have a schedule set up to where students can take two performing ensembles at the high school and still fit everything in that they need to from their freshman year. The schedule is set up that way. The other thing that we do musically, since you asked about music, and Anna and I have worked together for
One time.
like 13, I think it's 13 years now,
That sounds right.
at the high school, and we both have the same philosophy of we hate the term theater kid or band kid or choral kid. Like that's not how we think of the department. So we work tirelessly, it feels like, for a lot of kids to give them opportunities to do what they love, the passion they have, and do it all. And lucky we have a thriving extracurricular program that allows that. So if a student can fit a band and chorus or band and orchestra class during the day, they can do a cappella after school, they can do theater after school. There's marching band, there's jazz, there's all sorts of extracurricular options. And within those extracurricular options, there are ways to get a more intense experience. Like marching band is completely open, right? No auditions. We have so many kids that come to high school that do the marching band that have never played an instrument before, and they're as welcomed as anybody else. And we bring them in, and we make them a part of our culture. And the biggest question I get is if a student does that, a lot of times parents will say, "Well, what instrument do you need?" And I say, "Well, where are your kids' friends? Like, this is a social experience. Like we'll get them where we need to, but we want them to be there socially for their friends and to enjoy that experience." So there's that option, and then there's the jazz ensemble, my jazz ensemble, that's audition only, one on a part, competitive, so you have that option as well. And the same with a cappella. There's a competitive a cappella group, and then there's an open a cappella group to where you can really hone your skills, and it's, an opportunity to sing after school. So we provide these opportunities for students so that, in life we're all going to have to make a choice at some point, but we do our best at the high school level and through the high school level to make it so that the kids don't have to do that in the performing arts.
That's great. I think it's interesting because your content area is such a choice-based, sort of passion-based content area that to hear that there are that many choices and that you're sort of mindful of those pathways, that you're creating for the students, even on the individual level, is good news. Good things to hear. So thank you for all the hard work.
Kevin?
If you could wave a magic wand and have the one thing that could improve your department the most, like if you just ran Wakefield and could have the one thing that could make the entire K-12, PK through 12, your program better, what would it be?
The preschool's warming up for that question. They're ready. I appreciate it.
I think where we are right now, for me, it would be time. FaceTime with the kids, more FaceTime, more consistent FaceTime with the kids. And I know that every curriculum, it's being pulled in all different directions. We have so many requirements for these students from kindergarten on. Like I see that as a parent, I see that as a scheduler, I see that as a teacher. Like I see it all. We're asking a lot of our kids, but if I get my magic wand, I want more time. I want more time in front of them. I want more time for them to be with their peers in that setting. I want more time to develop leaders. I want more time to develop better musicians and better artists and give people opportunities to be in places where they love to be, because I think it really helps them in all their other classes throughout a day.
Thank you.
Good.
So I love that you ended with this slide, Tom. I think one of the things that people may not realize is how close your department is and how fiercely connected you are to one another. You love kids. The group not only loves kids collectively, but there's a remarkable respect and regard that you all have for one another. And it's undeniable. It's just undeniable. It's part of like a culture of excellence, right? Where like people come and it's not about being excellent. It's about working towards something, right? There's an amazing ethic in the work that's done. And it's really an amazing culture. But the people create that. Everyone on the screen creates that. So it's really something special. And it is something that has been done well over time. And so it's really important. Other things trivia things that people may not know, Tom is an expert scheduler. He also helps schedule our elementary schools and helps scheduling at the middle school. He also schedules our AP, correct, Tom? Am I out with that, right? And does a number of other things. Also during COVID, was an administrator in the virtual school. You know, we had more than 400 students in a virtual setting. We had 2 administrators that ran that program. And so to run a virtual school while also running a department, Tom did that, didn't really ask for anything extra. We asked him to do it, and he was amazing. And so, it's actually, we're very, very fortunate. We're very fortunate. And Tom wouldn't tell you these things, nor would the department say this about themselves. But it's a pretty amazing group, and so you have a lot to be proud of. And so thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
The only thing I wanted to follow up on, and Doug stole a little bit of the thoughts that I had, which is perfectly good, probably better stated than I. But the one thing that dramatically came across through the remarks that each of you shared, and the experience that both of my kids have had, neither of them are very good artists or performers, but did enjoy the time, was really the quality of the teaching staff, the quality of the relationship that you build. That when you're sharing art, you share love, right? You share passion, you share, and it's so demonstrably human that without that love and spirit and connection, it is really it is felt and known and understood, and it's really second to none. And I couldn't agree with you more, Tom. One of your concluding points that was, putting the Wakefield Performing Arts staff up against any in the state or any probably in the country. Couldn't agree more. And it's really a privilege to be able to not only have kids throughout the system, but to be obviously a school committee member and hear these types of things. 2 things came across that you just knocked it out of the park with, and the level of different creative energy that your teaching staff was required to do during COVID was immense, was considerable, and was felt. That's not to say at anything that the entire teaching staff didn't have to, build new mountains, right? But what you guys had to do, and you did so incredibly well, as performers yourselves, never mind with the just the teaching piece and the instructional piece. That was certainly known, shared, felt, and very freely and proudly discussed around town. I want you to know that even though you're sharing it as a proud, understandably so, proud department head, proud of your team, I think the community recognized that very, very well. The second thing that came to mind as another incredibly strong point, which is also a unique, I think perhaps unique to your department, was that your team members, these folks and perhaps others, built the curriculum from scratch. I think that was an incredibly important point to note, that we're not buying something out of a box. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's lots and lots of ways to get to the frameworks, right? There's lots of pieces that arrive there, lots of quality education and educational management goes into landing at a appropriate curriculum for Wakefield kids. But the work that you guys did was truly a performance art, really, in and of itself. And that's, those 2 points to me speak to people, speak to love, speak to your work. And so thanks for being here. It has been 2 years, wow, or 3 years, I guess.
It's been a while.
If it's a pre-COVID time. But thank you so, so much. And please thank everyone that's still with us. And if you talk to a couple of folks on the list who I see who have moved on, are retired and otherwise, just thank you so much, and excellent work, and thank you for sharing tonight and being so well prepared as always.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My gosh, talk about a feel-good night. We got two for, this is, oh my goodness, this is great. Next up, we're gonna invite Shannon, Katie, and Tara up to talk about what's happening at Doyle. So in the past years, when we've invited schools, Doyle hasn't been here in a little while. I think many of you have had the privilege of visiting Doyle. And if you haven't, we can get you over there. It is just heart-filling. It's an amazing place. Shannon?
All right. Hi, everybody. Shannon Blacker, the principal at the Doyle. And I have Tara Fitzgerald and Caitlin Dolan, both integrated teachers at the Doyle with me tonight. Both Katie and Tara are on our Doyle ILT. So tonight, they're going to speak to you more so than I am about, I know every other school likes to come with students, but I think 3 and 4-year-olds will be a little difficult at 8:30 on a Tuesday night to come here. So I thought it was important to bring the teachers along, and in the presentation tonight we are showing you the students. So we are going to talk about, you can go, yep, perfect, what's going on at the Doyle. So we're going to talk a little bit about our age-based classrooms, which we've implemented this year, both in the pre-K classroom at the Woodville and 2 of the classrooms at the Doyle currently. We're going to talk about play-based learning, which we do in all of our classrooms, allowing all the students of all ages and abilities to access the learning through hands-on. We're going to talk about family engagement and how our parents and families have been able to come back to the Doyle and do some things with us. And then we're going to talk about enrichment opportunities, thanks to the WEF and the PTO, with all the things that we've been allowed to do to go along with our different units, our SEL curriculum, and our STEAM weeks. So, and then lastly, I'm going to speak to you just to give you a quick update on registration for next year and moving forward. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Katie first, and she's going to talk about the first 2 things.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the pre-K and the age-based classrooms. So just as a little background, kids can range in age from 3 up until going to kindergarten when they're at the Doyle. So that is kind of a wide range of ages. This year we trialed some age-based classrooms. So we have what we refer to as our pre-K classes. So those are all students that are going on to kindergarten. So in those classrooms, we started our Foundations Phonics program earlier in the year in those classes because those students are ready. They've already had some preschool experience, and it's really about preparing them for kindergarten. By starting the Foundations earlier, those teachers were also able to fit in time to trial the Haggerty curriculum this year, which the elementary schools are using. And so they've just started that, this half of the year kind of. And so that's so far been positive for them. So we're excited to see how that kind of continues and how this all goes as those kids move on to kindergarten and have had these experiences. We have met with the teachers, like Shannon mentioned, Tara and I are on ILT, and we've met with some of the teachers that are teaching those pre-K classes, as well as with the STEM and humanities curriculum coordinators to talk about how different initiatives can be brought down to the preschool, like the Haggerty that we did,
and also just kind of getting looped in on some of their newsletters, and all of that has been really, really positive for us, just to hear kind of how we can help bridge some of that as kids are moving on, because that's one of the benefits really of kids coming to the Doyle. They really kind of get that smooth transition into their kindergarten and elementary experience. And so based on the success that we've had of these age-based classrooms this year, we're going to move forward with all age-based classrooms, or almost all age-based classrooms next year, for all students at Doyle, as well as the pre-K class at the Woodville. So we're really excited about that, because this was definitely a success for us this year. So then this, I'm not going to talk, a lot about this, but we linked here the scope and sequence, and if people want to go into it, you can kind of see how the preschool and the pre-K scope and sequence is a little bit different, but there's still a lot of overlap. So we're teaching the same themes and all of that, so kids are kind of like have that community aspect, but the pre-K is like has a little more academic heavy for the kindergarten prep. So you can see like the foundations, Haggerty, whereas the preschool classes are just doing foundations, and we just start in January with those students. So that's there. What happened?
It's a foundations lesson.
Oh. Okay. How do I get this to play, though?
They'll play it behind, so you can just talk about it. So this.
Okay, sorry.
You still what it is.
Sorry. This is going to be a foundations lesson.
I don't know if they're gonna be able to cue the video.
Oh, okay.
We can ask. I don't
Okay.
believe so. 'Cause
Oh, okay.
I think the deck, when it transfers,
Oh, okay.
it's a static deck.
Okay, they
Yeah.
can't. But, okay, unfortunately, we can't play this video, but this is a video that does show kind of the foundations in action. The students, this is a pre-K class, and they're seeing the letter, keyword, sound. They're repeating it with their teacher. So it's just kind of nice to see that, and that's what's going to carry over for them in the elementary grades. This is, again, some pictures from one of our older classes. These students are working in their math journals. So that example is they're doing counting coins and money. They did a whole lesson about that. You can see they have some writing hung up about what they did on February vacation. For them at that point, like a lot of it is them drawing and dictating to their teacher, but it's just like a really great exercise for them to get started with some of those, kind of like a writer's workshop type of skill. And then the final picture is completing a shape sort. So you can just see like there's some more of that kind of type of things that they're going to see next year in kindergarten that they're really getting ready for. And the kids have really risen to the occasion and loved this opportunity. Then I'm also going to talk a little bit about play-based learning. So play-based learning is in all of our classrooms, whether it's a sub-separate classroom, a pre-K classroom, a mixed age, all classes are using play-based learning. So you can see a lot of our play-based learning goes along with our themes. So there are some examples there. We did some community helpers. You can see some STEAM activities. These are great because all kids can access play-based learning, no matter what their level is. It's a great opportunity for us to kind of scaffold some of the things that we're learning, kids to have those hands-on experiences. We also incorporate a lot of our WH questions when we're working with students. There's some teacher-led activities, some that are more students working on their own. These are some really fun pictures from our farm unit. The kids are practicing shearing a sheep in one of those pictures. And that just really is like memorable for them, and it really drives home some of that stuff that they've learned about what takes place on a farm. What do farmers do? Again, a couple pictures from our STEAM week. We have a post office there from our community unit. This is also a great opportunity for our therapists, our speech, et cetera, to come in, work with students, work on their IEP goals, and participate in the play-based centers with students, depending on their IEP needs, whether it be or the teacher, to kind of focus in on some of the skills that students need during that time. It's a great time for differentiation and individual work, but the kids kind of don't even realize it because they're playing and being with their peers. So I'm going to turn over to Tara for our next two topics.
I'm next. Since COVID, we have not had a huge opportunity to let parents and the community members come into our building. So this year we really had a big push on letting people back in to see what we do, because we're kind of an island by ourselves and we want to show everybody how great we are. So we have started having more parent volunteers. We did a holiday craft day, so each classroom invited parents in and they all put on crafts for each class, so most of our class had 3 or 4 parents come in, and they each did a craft with small groups. They've been coming in to do reading. We have library every week with Miss Carol, our favorite librarian. And we just have, the other one is I think it was an uncle. He wasn't from Massachusetts. He came in to visit, and he wanted to come read to his nephew. So it was pretty fun and exciting. And here's some more holiday crafts from the parents. They came in. We've had community helpers. We had a firefighter come in. We've tried to get as many parents into the building as possible to help. And we've had some post students come in and help and volunteer in our classrooms as well. And the kids love them, and they're super great helpers. And it's been a really great opportunity for them and for us to see where our kids could go eventually. So thanks to WEF and the PTO, we've had some great enrichment opportunities and have some more to come. We were able to have barn babies come in. They brought in a bunch of bunnies, chickens, pigs, puppies, and a goat. And all the kids were able to get on the floor. They were able to snuggle the bunnies, all wrapped up in towels, and the chickens. They were able to pet and feed the goat in the diaper. There was a little pig that was screaming and snuggling in their laps, and puppies were able to play, and they sat, and they all had an amazing time. We also have, for our jungle unit coming up next, we have reptiles coming in, so the kids will get to be able to see a reptile show. We had a bubble man come in, and he showed them the science of bubbles, and they were able to interact with him. They were able to stick their hands through bubbles, and see what makes a bubble and how to make them bigger and how the science of bubbles. And for SEL, we had Johnny the K come in. He comes in every year so far, and he talks about like loving yourself and and the country and just being happy with who you are, and he's super engaging. The kids come up, he has funny hats, and they all have a really great time. The last one was just another video, was a video, but we can't do it, of the kids interacting with the bubble man. They were showing how if she put her hand through the hoop, dry, the bubble would pop, but if she put it in wet, covered in bubbles, then she'd become a part of the bubble. And the kids had a great time and were really appreciative and enjoyed every minute of it.
Before I get into this, any questions about what we're doing at Doyle?
School committee has a video, so they can watch
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
it. Word for nothing.
I'll take care of it.
Sorry, I was just saying, when I tried to press the video, I don't know if anyone else got restricted.
There's a,
Oh, okay.
Right. We can fix it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll go into this. So we have decided how we are moving forward for the 2023-24 school year for next year. So we are going to have a total of 11 classrooms, similar to this year. There'll be one full-day pre-K classroom. We're going to continue at the Woodville classroom of 16 children. Then we are going to have 4 full-day pre-K classrooms at the Doyle, all of 16. And then 4 preschool classrooms, so those are 3-year-olds, at the Doyle. And then 1 half-day mixed-age classroom and 1 sub-separate classroom. So that's how we're moving forward, or how we've moved forward already, because we have already done our entire registration closed, our lottery has happened. All families have been notified already if they have been selected in the lottery process, and we are in the process right now of collecting paperwork and registration fees. So we are hoping to service about 150 students roughly. Not all slots are filled right at the beginning of the year because we need to leave slots for our incoming special education students. And that, as you know from the last time I presented, that number keeps growing. That's the breakdown of how we'll do our classrooms. So in the classrooms of 16, we'll have the 11-5 split, but I talked about the ratios. In the classrooms of 15, we're doing an 8-7 ratio. And the sub-separate is all special education students. In our half-day mixed classroom will be a 6-5 ratio. So the registration, so 22 students did not get selected for the lottery. So we have them on a wait list right now. So if there's anyone who declines a spot, although we've only had 1 decline of everyone that's been selected. So unless, things happen, people move out, a lot of shifting happens even in the summertime. So we will go, everyone's numbered on the wait list, so then we go right to that wait list and get the next person in. So there's already been a little bit of movement, and then we posted an online wait list on our website. So that's the after registration wait list online. So there are now 17 students on that list, and that just keeps growing day to day when people figure out, oh my God, I already missed it. So they add their name there. So we will go to that if those 22 students, so some of the students, the 22 students are only interested in a half-day option. So, again, depending on where the opening would be, is where we pull them from the wait list. So like Katie had said, we're moving forward with the age-based classrooms even more so next year. So this year, we only did 2 pre-K classrooms at the Doyle, and the rest were mixed because we were kind of behind the 8 ball last year doing it. Where this year, we're going into registration differently, so we can really select. We're doing 4 and 4 at Doyle, 4 3-year-old classrooms, 4 4-year-old classrooms. And we're really doing it by age. So we're doing like 4.5 and older in 2 rooms and 4.0 to 4.5 in others. So we're really, and I will say through the lottery process, all 4-year-olds got in. So primarily our wait list is 3-year-olds. So just good news, getting them ready for kindergarten.
Can I add, Shannon?
Sure.
Can I add a little bit? I think, some of the things when we talk about Doyle and the special things that go on there, I think sometimes what doesn't always get reported is that all of the teachers at Doyle in the pre-K program are dual certified. They all have certification in special education, regular education. We are increasing, we're also intentional about kind of our age-based classrooms and trying to take on different curriculum in our age-based spaces to have our students be more prepared for kindergarten, right? So not only kind of academically with curriculum, but you will also you heard Tara and Katie talk about kind of the pro-social skills that kids learn and practice every single day to basically learn how to learn. So the teachers in our K, and especially our pre-K, they're not only teaching a curriculum, they're not only teaching math and literacy skills, they're teaching students how to learn, how to be with one another, which, you have to see it in action to kind of understand how intentional you have to be and how sophisticated it is. It's not a daycare program. It's not, this is very structured, and it's very individualized. What Shannon is doing and what the teachers are doing, if there's a student in, for example, a sub-separate class you see here at the bottom, sub-separate class with 5 students, if there's a student in that class that is ready to spend a little bit more time in a larger class, then they make that change. And if the student is able to spend more time, they spend a little more time. If they need to scale back, they scale back. It's really, you have to see it to really understand it, because it's really remarkable. So, and again, I don't want to talk about your program.
Keep going.
I like to say that the most important thing to me is that these kids come in and they love school, because that's setting them up for a future of success. And that sounds simple, but we all take that as a huge responsibility, and that's so important to us. We want to work with families, we want to work with students to make them want to come in and enjoy that. Like we were just talking before this about how, coming back from vacation can be a challenge, and how we want to welcome our students back and make them excited to come back and see us. And that's really important to us, to set them up for that.
Mike?
Comment and a question. I would say in my almost 3 years here with the school committee, that Shannon has easily been in the top 3 of guest speakers that have been here, easily. And we love the Doyle. So wonderful work all of you are doing there. So we love having you here. And a bit of a tip of the hat to Tim O'Brien. How are we enjoying our newly configured school?
Great. The smell in the hallways is fantastic. Chicken nuggets are a hit, so that's huge. And we're thinking about transitioning into like our CAF space with our 2 older classrooms.
Not,
And
not everyone may know what you're referring to when you talk about the changes, when you say, because if there's anyone, like a viewing audience,
The
they may
cafe.
not know what the change in smell is in the
Oh, the
hallway.
change in smell, so we never had hot lunches before. Good smell. Right.
We want to be careful what,
Yeah, we want to be careful because bathrooms are a hot topic at the preschool level. So yes, so now we have hot lunches with the new kitchen at the Doyle, so which is great. So we're smelling, fresh cooking. That's happening down there, so which is great. And like I said, the area where we use for all-purpose space at the Doyle is we just got new tables in there, so we're able to now have some classrooms go down there to transition them to get ready for the CAF when they go to kindergarten. So the Woodville class is doing that already. They're going with the kindergarten now. They're going through the line, getting their own food as preschoolers. And I spoke to the teacher prior to vacation, and she is making them all now punch in their own codes, just like every other child. So they're able to do it even at the age of 4. It's great. So we're definitely seeing the benefit. I think Kara saw a little bit of the age-based classrooms yesterday when she popped over to guest read. She saw primarily 3-year-olds in Katie's room. And then she went to the 5-year-olds group, and it was like a world of difference, I think. They're both great, but
Yeah.
definitely different.
The classroom at Woodville was an ad last year. We piloted this last year. If you remember, the reason for the pilot, the reason for opening up a classroom there was because coming out of COVID, there were a number of closures for kind of viable pre-K programs. So our dilemma was to try to open another space, try to accommodate greater numbers, or to turn people away. And we decided, with the help of Matt Carter, but Shannon and her group have really taken ownership of the class in another location, right? Which has not always been easy. So, we hire someone for a space, but to kind of develop that person professionally, at times, Shannon and Matt have gotten together and, we've sent staff from Doyle to Woodville to do a little, professional development, to be in a class, to kind of work with the teacher and the paraeducator in there. And, it hasn't been easy, and what you see now is not what started in September. There was some adjustments that needed to be made. But like everything that the Doyle Group and Shannon does, the adjustments are made. Not much talk is talked, not much of a to-do is made about the bumps in the road. They fix it, they move on, and it looks seamless, but it's never seamless. It's always with a great deal of work, so.
For the students that are at the Woodville, that might, say, have speech, does that, covered by the speech pathologist that is assigned to the Woodville, or is it the one that's assigned to the Doyle?
Currently, it's the Woodville speech therapist.
Okay. I know it's all one special education department, but I didn't know how the case, and then the other, if you go back to the last slide so now we have 4 pre-K, for the 4 full-day preschool, so there's no 4-year-olds going to kindergarten in that classroom, in those 4 classrooms,
Correct.
actually.
Right.
And then, but the mixed age half-day might have some?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Have you seen a difference, and you can move the class faster? Have you noticed a difference? I mean, you must if it's here to stay, yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The older classrooms, because they already have some of those foundational skills in place, we're able to move forward with just exploring more. Some kids are reading books already, doing pre-reading activities, like you saw in some of the pictures, the math journaling,
Yeah.
things like that. Whereas in mixed classrooms, at times you get bogged down with the youngers sometimes because they're just trying to open their pens, but their markers, we're helping them open things, or, where the 4 and 5-year-olds can already do that and get to work, or they know how to navigate just the schedule easily. you know, so can definitely move. And, you know, potty training is a huge thing. Diapering is a huge thing. So in the older classrooms, most of the children are already potty trained. So they're not spending the time with adults out of the classrooms changing diapers, whereas the 3-year-old classrooms you are. So things are going slower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the age-based classrooms from even a curriculum standpoint too, just how you can really tailor, you know, what the curriculum looks like and the kids kind of get something new
Right.
each year. And I also just want to highlight too, Tara, was you and Katie on the math, and I know Katie, you're on the ELA now, were you both involved in the curriculum review? But yeah, Katie's been involved in the math and the ELA curriculum review as well, just to have that connection, because like you said, it's such an opportunity for just some pre-exposure and, you know, taking the initiative to meet with the curriculum coordinators and bring that down. So that's been great from a curriculum standpoint too.
So there are some students that are with us for 3 years. So these age-based classrooms really make sense for a student like that.
No, I was, my daughter was at the Doyle when it wasn't age-based, and that really was one of the biggest critiques you heard from parents, like, why isn't my students ready for kindergarten, but yet they're still with 3-year-olds, so
Right.
it held me
It's
back
one
a
of the
little bit.
biggest questions I get when we do our tours.
Yeah. So great, thank you.
And I have to say, I'm gonna pull a Tom right now. I don't have my last slide with all my teacher names on there. I wish I did, but it's because of them, not me. When I'm out, as Kara and Doug know, if I have to be out a day, there is no assistant or anything under me. I have to lean on my teachers and my teacher team. The building runs seamlessly. Kara, I think, covered me for me last year when I had COVID, and she was like, what do I do? Everyone just steps up and does, and it's because of, you know, them, and they do everything so great. I don't have to worry about a thing, so, which is great.
Other than the teachers, can you just say what else you have in the building? I know there's a full-time nurse, I know
Yeah,
there's,
so we have a full-time nurse, we have a part-time school psychologist, we have district-wide physical therapist, so she covers the whole entire district. We have an occupational therapist who's there part-time. She's contracted for the preschool. And then we have speech therapists, so we have one full-time and 1.8,
Wow.
4 days a week. The numbers there are growing. It's
Yeah.
across the state in all preschools. So we have about 80 kids we're servicing at the preschool level for speech and language.
and do you have an administrative assistant still?
I do not. Oh, yeah, administrative assistant, my
Yeah.
secretary, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Stacy. I can't forget about her. God, this is all her. Not me. I won't be- thought you meant the assistant principal. I wish.
Shannon, the Doyle also will service students who don't necessarily go to the Doyle as well.
Right.
Like just who are out, you know,
Correct.
maybe attend a private preschool, but have an IEP that allows them to get speech and language services too, so like kind of like
Right.
outpatient, yeah.
Correct. And if I had a magic wand,
Oh, yeah.
because we were thinking that question.
This question.
He didn't ask.
Preloaded.
Do you have a question, Kevin?
We were ready.
We're ready. We all turned to each other and said space.
Do you want that question? I had a different one.
You can ask two.
No.
There's now
We
a
already-
new required
Did
question.
you hear the answer?
No, I want,
Space. We
I
are
was gonna say
out of
new
space.
building.
Especially with the increase of therapists, every inch of Doyle has been used. I give up my office one day a week for meetings and therapy to happen, so, but that's what we do.
It's
Kids come
really
first.
interesting to me, you know, town council met last night and they were talking about the budget and the increase in the number of units in town. And I, you know, I wonder with all that's happening at the state, if we're heading in a direction for universal pre-K and what that might mean for us, right? And if that happens, we would need space. Be a wonderful problem, but we would need space, and that would really be amazing for the district, right? To be able to have all pre-K students to be educated in Wakefield. Pre-K would be like K, right? In that, or, you know, 3, 4, 5, you would have an age-based sequence where curriculum, you know, experience, getting to know and learn with your neighbors and your peers could really be great. But I'm hopeful about that.
Because some of those classrooms, they're modulars, aren't they? Or are they not?
No.
No? Oh,
I'm
okay.
thinking of the redesign of the
The gym.
gym
like
space,
gym
maybe
space.
where
Oh,
classrooms were added in the last 5 years or so,
Right.
yeah.
There's space to add on, you know.
There is space to add on. We're just trying to.
Second floor.
I would probably go out before we went up, because that's kind of a 1970-esque structure. But, but this is it's really a great problem to have, but, I think that these are things that, no one wants to, we just want to take care of the high school first. But, in terms of long-range planning, this is something that I think has to be part of the 10-year plan, or sooner, because if things start to fall into place, where if we're looking at universal pre-K, that's going to be a conversation, because we likely would have between 180 to 280 pre-K students that we would need to educate in districts, right?
Who pushes universal pre-K, the state?
State.
What was your other question?
What? Oh, no. I'm not gonna throw a curveball.
It's kind of tough to
But-
top the magic wand question.
The magic wand question. No. I feel bad. I stumped him.
In terms of wait list in the lottery, so right now we have, was that 39 folks that would, in theory, like to come to the Doyle, and we just don't have the space for them. What does that look like compared with last year, or even the year before, that sort of necessitated the classroom at Woodville? It was like, we really should build the space out. Is that number?
So this number is very similar to what we landed with last year after we put the Woodville classroom in.
Yeah, okay. So we haven't seen that sort of come down. It's not like
Correct.
that need is being met elsewhere. It's a consistent need.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would bet the online one is gonna continue to go up a little bit, just because we've got a lot of calls in the past couple weeks, just to say like, when does your registration open?
Oh, yeah.
We're like, we're already closed, so go online and put your name there, so.
I'm still doing that as the first time. Like, my first kid, I'm late to sign up for
Right.
everything, and when he was a
It's a
baby.
first-time parent with a
Yeah,
3-year-old.
pre-K was
Right.
the exact, what do you mean I gotta sign up in like November? But yeah, so having some Doyle alumni, thank you for everything you do. It's a great space, and you utilize it well. So I think when we talked about Woodville, it was like, so we'll have a class here, and if this works out, we don't know if we could do this anywhere else. Are there any other spaces that exist now that you could do something?
No.
Okay. All right.
No. And in fact, I think Shannon was negotiating for a few spaces, and I think there was petitioned a few people thoughtfully, spirited conversations, and I don't think we don't have the space at this point. So, but we are looking not only for this year, but for next year, and for future years to come, right?
The other, I think the herd might have been talked about, but the thought is with the high school construction, I thought I had heard they might need some of that space for some of that too.
They're
Yeah.
Sorry, just, with the Woodville class, this being the first full year, have you gotten a sentiment sort of from the parents? Are there any tweaks that perhaps you may think of?
So we did do a survey, which led us to decide to keep going with it. I didn't want to present too much information tonight. So we surveyed all the parents of that classroom, and we also surveyed all the teachers at the Woodville school and all the teachers at the Doyle school, just to get any feedback that they could provide. The parent feedback was great. There wasn't many cons or negatives to it. There were some bumps in the road at the beginning of the year, just around drop-off, pickup, timing, if you had multiple students at Woodville, because we start later than the elementary schools do. So, but we made accommodations for all those families, and we'll continue to do so. And we're adjusting a couple things for next year. But other than, and then PTO-related things, do I go to that event? Do I go to this event? Do I go to both events? Things like that. But once we worked out all those kinks on getting our communication systems down for both schools, everything seemed to work out. That was the parents' feedback that we got. So, year two will even be better, because of that. We already know those things. So, But overwhelmingly a positive experience. And we got, out of the 16 students there, I believe 14 responded of the parents to the survey. And then staff survey, again, was positive because we got more kids in, we're getting kids in under our eyes. The one con is that it's a standalone, there for that teacher, for that para. Doesn't really have a cohort of teachers to like problem solve with in the moment when something's happening, or if you have a challenging student there, whose responsibility is it? Is it Doyle staff? Is it their staff? All of those things. But again, working that out and, I think, again, year two, if the teacher is the same teacher, then they've connected now with like our staff at Doyle, they participate in RPD, so they're getting into it,
They
so.
currently have Woodville currently has a bubble class. One of their grades is not a group of 4. Second, it's a cohort of 5 classes. So when that class, if the enrollment at that level, if in grade 3 it shrinks a little bit, and we can get another classroom, ideally we would love to have 2 classrooms together. So when there's 2 classrooms together, the teachers can kind of rely on one another. They can share kind of students between classes. They can share materials. They can do professional development together. It's just a little bit of a different model, and that's something that we're learning as we're going here, like Shannon said.
But a lot of positive feedback as to some of the things that Woodville has access to, Woodville class. So like book buddies, they're starting to do with 4th graders. So that's just something that we can't do at Doyle, because we don't have access to them. But, so that's just great. The cafeteria, being able to do that, going to music class versus the music teachers coming into our classrooms just because of the space. So parents have loved that, and it will be a seamless transition for those kids that are attending Woodville. So that's a huge win for those kids. I know Matt Cardo will push for that. So wanted to mention that.
They're great. I had an instance to be in the school and I was hanging something up and I had 3 little, they're just shorter.
Right.
That's all they are.
Yeah.
And they come over and can I help? And it's like, yeah, here. So, it's sort of fun having them there. And I think, I think the other kids in the school sort of appreciate them, especially you talk about book buddies and, nothing better than to be that like big sort of 2nd grader or 3rd grader and walk down and be the big kid in the room.
Kindergartners are even,
Yeah.
they know that there's, that they need to help out the little guys. Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, thank you very much. One thing, you talked about, the foundation, and I think you guys, your team entirely, right, are more foundational perhaps than for probably every other educator in the district. And Katie, you mentioned something like that. It struck me. And one of the things that really came to mind is the extraordinary both, role modeling that you must do, as well as providing a real foundation for students to build a trust relationship with an adult for the first time, with a non-parent and non-family member adult, right? And that's something I bet you guys are seeing it harder and harder, especially coming out of COVID, with an entirely different set of kids prepared for social, emotional activity, social interaction with each other, never mind with adults, right? So that work hasn't gone unnoticed, and the work that you are doing, your team is doing in the 2 or 3 years, however long you have some of the kids, just start something that's going to stay with them through the rest of their lives, never mind the rest of their time, whether in elementary or Galvin or the high schools. And that really can't go understated. Of all the things on your plate, that critical role of that trust relationship between a student and a trusted adult is a very big deal. One more of the many things that is cast upon the preschool team, but you do it incredibly well, and kudos and thanks to everyone on your team.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
We want some chicken nuggets.
We'd love to have you. Come on over.
Change a diaper.
Thank you so much.
Every day, Chip.
Every day, well, there you go, that's even better.
So this is our last opportunity to hear from Left Field and SMMA ahead of our community vote on March 11th, Saturday, March 11th, from 7 a.m. to, I believe, 8 p.m. The poll will be open for the ballot, the debt exclusion at Galvin Middle School. But this is the last opportunity for us to hear from Lynn Stapleton and from Helen Fantini from SMMA. Lynn, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm not sure what's wrong with my video. Hopefully it'll pop up here in a minute. But good evening, everyone. My name's Lynn Stapleton, and I'm from Left Field Project Management. We are the owners projects managers for the high school project, and I am joined tonight with Helen Fantini of SMMA. She's the design team's project manager. I believe you've all met both of us, but just in case anyone else hasn't met us yet. We are here tonight to give you a quick update on the high school project, and we really do appreciate the opportunity to keep the Wakefield Memorial High School project in the forefront as we approach the funding date on March 11th. We have a short presentation, and I'll turn it over to Helen to kick off the update.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn, and good evening, everyone. As Lynn said, we hope to continue seeing a lot of you all in the days and years ahead. This evening, by way of an update, we really are just focusing on three aspects of the project: time frame, budget, and educational plan. And if the slides are ready, I think we can pull up the second one.
Next slide, please. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Really just going to take you on a very, very brief walk down memory lane, if you will, and go back to the beginning, the fundamental foundational part of this project in developing the district's educational plan. So this was really kicked off in the fall of 2021. We kicked off programming activities with 4 educational visioning sessions that were well attended by educators, by some community members, and led by our consultant, David Stephen of New Vista. We conducted meetings with staff and students. We issued questionnaires to gather even broader range of input. And we reviewed precedents of other building types and types of spaces, and we toured 3 recently completed high school projects. So all of those things really contributed to a key document, and that was the development of the district's educational plan. And I do mean the district's educational plan. It was written by Principal McLeod and department heads, and Dr. Lyons, of course, had a key role in that. And so really the key components of that plan, they are listed on this slide. The importance of student-centered learning, the opportunities that we hope will be provided with this new building through interdisciplinary learning, technology-infused, that idea of anywhere, any place learning, community-connected, problem and project-based learning, and process and product-oriented. Next slide. And with those key components from the educational plan, the design team went to work, marrying the components with the space summary, which is an enumeration of the space sizes and types, as well as the themes that emerged from that educational visioning process. So this plan diagram on the right-hand side of the slide, we hope is pretty familiar to you all. It's an expression of many of the conceptual building blocks that can be described and consist of the 4 academic clusters that, again, we hope foster interdisciplinary adjacencies, an emphasis on transparency and connectivity, centralized student supports, connections to nature and the outdoors with, this was an important key that came from the visioning exercises, as well as the creation of a vibrant core to the building, a building that has a heart at its center. Next slide. And perhaps a bit less poetic, but equally critical is, this is a summary of the space summary, which really regulates the plan in its current form and must be adhered to moving forward, as it is the basis upon which the MSBA project budget is built. So just a few quick notes on this. The proposed new building consists of 259,847 square feet of new construction, which as compared to the existing building is really only 3.7% larger. So the existing building is 250,430 square feet. And the new plan addresses current and future space needs that are enumerated in the educational program. It's a clear and compact building organization, fully accessible, handicapped accessible. Programmatic adjacencies are provided to, again, focus on interdisciplinary and hands-on learning. So we've got a number of labs that allow for that. Creates virtual, extended, and enhanced learning opportunities through that technology throughout. And enhances the integration of special education. And finally, it does also provide multiple spaces for community use. So that's a pretty brief summary of the process to date and where we are with the plan. I think you all remember that we've made it through schematic design, which is pretty good descriptor of where we sit right now, assuming and hoping for a positive result on the 11th of March, we would move the project into detailed design. And that's when we will again come and visit with administrators and department heads and really get into more detail. But with that, I'll hand it over to Lynn to talk about budget and time frame.
Next slide, please. So it's taken us 28 months since MSBA invited the town and the school district into the MSBA pipeline. We've been, as OPM's been on, almost 2 years now. We brought the designers on at the end of September in 2021. We went through an extensive feasibility study phase, 7 months that took us through the preliminary design program, which was when the educational plan was developed, through selection of various alternatives to get to the selected preferred schematic. And we went through that process and submitted the preferred schematic to MSBA in May of 2022. They voted to approve and move us into schematic design. And we entered a more in-depth study of the preferred option as we move forward. We submitted that report, the schematic design report, at the end of October 2022, and the MSBA voted to approve the project scope and budget at their December 21st, 2022 board meeting. We're now in the phase of the project called funding the project. MSBA has voted on what they will participate in, and now the town is being asked on March 11th to vote their share of the project. Next slide, please. The total project cost is $273,250,903. Of that, approximately $223.6 million is construction cost. Within those construction costs, we've accounted for projected escalation as the project goes forward. So we feel like we're pretty risk averse in terms of what the market may do over the next couple of years until we get into construction. And the remainder of that is the indirect costs, which are the fees for design and management, as well as all of the furnishings, fit out, fixtures and equipment and technology throughout the building, as well as the owner's contingencies, both for construction and the owner's costs. There's some good contingencies there that will help protect the town as we move forward with the project. As with contingencies and escalation, there's always the opportunity and the hope that we will not see the full escalation or contingencies that have been included in here. But at this point, we went to the MSBA, and at the end of that, we've ended up with a estimated town share of approximately 208 million, $208.3 million. Next slide. This slide is part of the presentation from MSBA on December 21st, when the board voted on the project. Where we stood in October, our estimated project grant was going to be $54.4 million. From that time, from when we submitted it to the MSBA board meeting at the end of October, they increased the grant by approximately $10 million. So that's how we ended up with the $208.3 million for the town share that we're currently at. Next slide. Also part of that MSBA presentation was other comparable projects that were on the same track as the Wakefield High School project, and there was only one other high school project that is at the same time in the same bid climate and same point in the process as the high school project, and that was the Neshoba Regional High School project. And Wakefield was a good bit lower than on terms of cost per square foot than that project. Next slide, please. Just quickly, the town did a really good presentation on the estimated annual tax impact, and I won't go through all of this in depth, but I will say that there's a slow ramp up till we get to the average maximum cost of the taxes, which occurs in about 2029 and is pretty steady through 2047, and it starts to ramp down again. But if people are interested in knowing what their specific tax impact would be, we do have the wakefieldmhsproject.com website that you can go into the FAQ tab and go to question 18 and fill in your assessed home value and get your exact tax impact. And just quickly to remind everyone that the cost of doing nothing, it's not zero. The existing high school needs a lot of work. They're currently at risk of the NASC decertification, as well as the many capital expenditures that would have to be piecemealed in order to keep the project going. And you still have accessibility expenses in order to make sure that you can make the existing high school as accessible as possible in the years to come. Also, you know, if it were to be voted down, you would end up having to withdraw from the MSBA process and lose their funding, as well as potentially not being able to get back into the MSBA pipeline for many years. And more importantly, you would have no improvements to the delivery of education. And that's probably one of the biggest, would be one of the biggest disappointments. As well as other issues and possible reduction in property values and potential reduction in state education funding to Chapter 70. Those are just a few of the impacts of not voting the project. Next slide, please. This is just a quick overview of where we stand now with the overall project schedule. We're looking at, if it's a positive vote on March 11th, we would begin design development right away. That process would take about 14 months to get us to a complete design. We would be doing early package bidding, probably right after the 60% construction documents, and try to get some of the site work and early concrete work started in advance to give us a little bit of jump on construction. And we'll be looking to bid the full package in the summer of 2024 and be fully under construction through the fall of 2026. We had originally been saying that we would be opening the new school in 2026, but with the way the schedule has fallen in terms of start of construction and with the voting timeline and everything else that we've had to work with, it's likely just that we won't be able to start school in the new building until the January 2027. We're looking to approve upon that, but just to make sure that we don't misguide people in terms of expectations. Right now, it's looking like it will be a January 2027 school opening. And again, we'll try to improve that as we move along with detailed design. After the new school is built and the students have moved into that new school, we'll begin demolition of the existing school and completion of the site work and fields. And that's it for the presentation tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
Lynn, did you just, the previous date for school opening, was it just September? Was it the start of the school year in 26?
Yes, sir.
Was that the previous?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay.
As we got into more detail with the construction schedule with the construction manager, it really felt like based on when we could start construction within a calendar year, it just felt that we were too tight trying to say at this point we can meet a September 2026 school opening. We will continue to look at that and hope to improve upon it as we move through the design development phase. But right now, just to be safe, we're saying a January 2027 school opening.
And secondly, just is there an additional opportunity for community input during if this did pass, during the next stage of design?
Yes, there is. There will be continued programming meetings where we'll get into more depth in the design of the building, but we'll also be looking for other value engineering opportunities to reduce cost on the building as well. As I said, we had to present a budget that we felt comfortable making it through the end of the year 2026 with a budget that we could live within and not have to come back to the town with asking for additional monies. So we felt that we had to develop a budget that was a really conservative budget that did not be subject to all of the volatility of the construction market.
Thank you.
And Lynn, the final demo and the new field, if you will be ready in the spring of 2028, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It will likely be complete before then, but with, just finishing it up could go into the spring of 2028.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Amy?
So it's really a 4-month difference, like we were thinking September,
It was a year and a half.
yeah. Oh, a year and a half? No,
From 26 to
the fall of 26 to January.
Fall of 26 to January of 27.
27.
Yeah.
Oh,
4
okay,
months.
I was 28. That's, okay,
So,
yeah. That's not.
I know
dramatic.
I know it's not, that may or may not happen, but is there any, do we foresee any challenges moving students in the middle of winter? No, I know that, but I'm thinking like,
Ideally, it would be better to have a greater timeline than to do it over a break,
yeah,
right? But likely, if this is the choice that we have, we're gonna take and adapt to what is presented.
yeah.
And I think the teachers are on board with that as well. So I think I feel pretty confident in saying that, we will do whatever we need to do to kind of adapt and make it work, right?
Because
And so-
the teachers would have to set up their classrooms all over again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I understand that everything will be new.
Well,
Right.
high school classroom stuff is a little different, because
Yeah.
right now, a lot of the teachers kind of travel anyway, so it's
Okay,
a little bit different than elementary.
It would be difficult,
middle, yeah.
right? And we would likely have to budget for additional time.
yeah.
And those are things that are, things that I think we would have to account for, and I think that we're planning for.
Other schools have done it that way?
Yeah, we were.
Yes.
Oh, you
We
did
were
it?
gonna, well, we didn't because COVID happened. But
Oh, okay.
We were gonna do it over April break.
April break, okay.
Yeah, so we boxed. We had everything
April
boxed.
break.
Yeah.
That's even, I think more, that's tougher, I think. Anyway.
It is,
maybe-
yeah.
Yeah, the later in the year.
So we had everything boxed up, like ready to go. We had to box everything.
Well, it's a unique challenge to have. I mean, we wouldn't want to wait another 6 months.
Right.
No, I'm just,
Asking.
Yeah.
If we plan well, we have good, management team, as well as, we may have to adjust the calendar. As Doug said, we may have to adjust, provide some additional resources, and
We'll do it.
it's doable.
Figure it out.
Right now, the focus is Saturday, the 11th.
right.
Right.
And we just wanted to take this opportunity just to kind of get back to, in a lot of ways, where we started, right? And so, our work with Lynn and Helen may be at 28 months, but our statement of interest was drafted in the fall of 18, right? And so, and that doesn't include the pre-feasibility work we did with Doran Whittier in 16, right? So this project has been in the works for quite some time. And so, so this is, 5.5 or 6.5 years of March 11th will be 5.5 or 6.5 years in the queue of actively kind of planning and negotiating in this space. You
18
gotta
to
think of it that
28,
way,
sure.
right, Mike? Yeah. But, Hal and Lynn, I don't know if anyone has any more questions. I know you've been waiting for some time, and I appreciate your patience.
Yeah. Thank you very much for for everything that you've done that gets us to this point.
Thank you all for the opportunity to put the project out there again, and hopefully everybody will get out and vote.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yes,
Thank you.
good night.
That is it for me and my agenda items. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Item 11, budget items. We have some gifts tonight. We have a motion, a couple motions, actually. Or two motions.
Yeah. Okay. Move that the school committee accept with gratitude the donation of $200 from the Wakefield Knights of Columbus for the Wakefield Athletics General Fund to be used at the school's discretion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next motion.
Move that the school committee accept with gratitude the donation of $2,000 from the New England Patriots Foundation for the Wakefield football program in honor of Coach of the Year, John Rafferty.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Do we
Seeing
have
none,
any
all in-
Patriots players here to present that award, that donation? No, not
Here
tonight?
tonight?
No, second, yes. Ready to vote.
Ready to vote? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12, subcommittee reports. Mr. Boudreau, Finance Facilities.
Yep, so finance facility, it's budget, and budget. I spent a little time with Doug and Christine today, and some comments that I had. I encourage all of you to reach out to them with any questions, clarifications. I'm not sure if you went, I apologize for being late, if you went over some of the dates.
We just went over the dates that were
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next.
so,
Yep.
so that'll be here before we know it, so the earlier you can get to them with any comments and questions you have would help move the process along well. So that's really it. We meet again this Thursday at 8, is our next meeting. And I believe Finance Committee some members will be there.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Labor and personnel, I pretty much gave an update during a prior remark, so move on. Student services, Amy.
Yes, we met Monday night, February 13th, the committee, and we had a very special guest with us. Ms. Fayer joined us from the previous chair, so that was nice. All community members are welcome to join the subcommittees. We spoke about the survey a little bit. Kara went through all the teacher survey comments, and then the subcommittee members went through the parent survey comments, and we kind of categorized them. We talked about that a little bit. So we're going to meet again. Our next meeting is this coming Monday, and then we're just going to bring what we feel were the top concerns and comments and decide what we're going to do about those. At the end of the meeting, we talked about math again. Yes, never gets old. And how we just asked that maybe the administration does more than just a June check-in, maybe 1 or 2 check-ins of how the math model in 7th grade is going. Maybe we could hear from a teacher, any student feedback, given it is something new for the district. We thought it was important for multi-checkpoints. That's it. Again, the next meeting is Monday, March 6th at 5:30 via Zoom. Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. Policy, Mr. Ingles.
Yep. We have not met since our last meeting, I think pretty much from school break. But I think left on the table for us in committee was looking at school start times. I think we're hoping that we could sort of get the permission of the greater committee to, we wanted to form a subcommittee and figure out how we want to form groups to start getting some community input, community educator, parents. I think we said this before, it's going to be a multi-faceted approach, and we would like to sort of be empowered to start forming some of those groups to get some thoughts and opinions on the subject so that we can be a little better informed. So we sort of put that see if we can get the nod from the larger group if that's something that you're okay with us pursuing, because it was not on our original goals for the subcommittee that came out of our retreat at the beginning of the year. So looking for a thumbs up on that.
And this is, again, in regard to
School start times. There was that wonderful presentation that we got from our high school junior, Miss Alexis Mancy, that I think we'd also love that presentation to make it to the larger committee.
We
so
would.
that you all could see that, what we saw.
Yes.
And so from that discussion that we had, we just saw it, we thought that we needed to sort of take some more steps in that space. So.
Well, I think it's a terrific idea. I would agree. I know you and I spoke about it at one point, and I think we would very much like to have Ms. Manzi's presentation to the larger group at some point. I know March becomes a busy month, or March and April are two busy months, but I think if we can get that presentation on during that time, it may actually help support any sort of outreach that the subcommittee may be doing.
Yep.
So there's something going on in tandem. It's not either thing happening, months or weeks away from each other.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Does the committee have any concerns or objections with further empowering the subcommittee to do some additional outreach to the community itself? Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. Please do so.
And just one last thing coming out of that is from the policy and comm subcommittee is we're continuing to have the policy book looked at from MASC, and Doug has shared with us the work that our attorney, Ms. Spatafor, had done. So we're reviewing. It's in our hands, and we're just going through it, and we'll be tabling soon.
Great. Good.
Communications.
Remind me.
we had, communication was sent today.
Oh,
We were coordinating communications just to keep the district informed about swatting. So there was a communications that went out today, that we had talked about in the smaller group, just to keep the community informed, right? So, I'm happy to answer if anyone has any questions on that.
Has that quieted down?
Maybe
I just haven't noticed. Has it been
I-
Facebook? You guys did last week? Did you? Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think a lot of it happened before vacation.
Yeah.
And so we don't know yet if it's gonna ramp up yet, but we just wanted to keep people informed, right?
Can we just, I'm sorry, I just want to go back to the school start times, because this would be a big deal, I think. We're going to have Alexis come at some point to present what she presented to the subcommittee, but at the same time, the subcommittee is going to be reaching out to the community to make groups?
well, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
I
Like
also-
a survey, I just want, what vehicles are we going to use? We haven't
That's,
decided yet.
well, that's the thing, that's what we would like to talk about in
Oh, okay.
policy and common, sort of come up to an idea of what do those groups look like? How would we collect information from them? Yeah, what would that framework look like?
Okay.
I think what Stevens particularly had, not to put words in his mouth, but when we talked about it, just, my sense of what they're asking is that this concept, this topic wasn't part of their goals.
Right.
That we all approved, we each empowered each subcommittee to fulfill its goals. So they're sort of taking on a new one, a new goal, a new task, a new topic. So want to make sure that the full committee is on board with members proceeding to make outreach around this topic, as you say, which is certainly going to have a lot of public input.
Yeah.
So the beginnings of that are a good thing. No, I'm sorry, Mike. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Tom. I'm looking at the goals and we have student start times on them.
Oh, I didn't think we had
Yeah.
officially, okay.
Yeah, so you didn't really have to even ask,
All right.
but it's nice you did anyway.
Like to be thorough.
Well, he's asked twice then.
It's
It's all good.
very persistent, isn't it? Yeah, so it's already on the list. Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
that was it.
any liaison reports? Okay. Item 13, future agenda items. Doug went over the schedule earlier in the meeting, but our next full school committee meeting, Tuesday, March 14, 7:30 PM here, during which the administration will present the FY24 budget proposal. So, going around the table, school committee comments. Anyone would like to volunteer to speak or share some thoughts?
Just,
Amy?
March 9th,
Yes.
right, is the kickoff, would you say, to Wake Parent
Well,
University?
we
or-
had Ellen Broughton on
Yeah.
the second, and then Sarah Ward is coming in on March 9th for the second virtual speaker, which should be great. I think there's been pretty good advertising on Facebook and social media, and we could probably send out another messenger to remind families. And then the in-person event from Parent University will be on March 25th at Woodville.
So for, Sarah is allowing us to record, right?
Yes, which is different from the last presentation, yeah.
But will the recording only be sent to the people who are registered?
I think, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but, because I'm trying to remember what we said on that. I would definitely register to be safe,
Yep.
but I think that we might be able to put it on our Parent University website for up to a week
Okay.
after, but
I
that's
know,
not 100%. I want to
I
cross-check
saw
that.
some of the advertisement, and it's kind of billed the way it was written towards students who might be struggling with homework, but I have to say that everyone would benefit from listening to Sarah. It's really not that finite, so I just hope a lot of people
Yeah.
will register, because
We
she's
can
great.
Should be really good.
We can get another communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of highlighting that.
Thank you.
I thought it was sort of focused on executive functioning
Mm-hmm.
in that space. And the tagline for the homework, which I resonated with me, is this idea that your kid would do their homework and then forget to hand it in. And they would come home from school and you'd be like, what? Wait a minute. So, yeah, that was the hook that got us signed up
Yeah.
immediately. Like, that's me. It's like they're in my house. Yeah.
But I think at the few times I've seen her present, she does explain what executive functioning is, and not a lot of people know what that is unless
Yep.
you have maybe a student that's struggling, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other school committee comments?
Just
Doug, yes.
additional dates. So we have, next week is actually, this weekend, next week is packed, right? And so we have, this Friday night, we have Spelling Bee, correct?
The WEF spelling bee, yeah.
This Friday night is the WEF Spelling Bee, which is a big event. The auction is also opening, the WEF auction also opens tomorrow, which is a big fundraiser for them. And they've been a little bit behind in their fundraising. And so I know that they're really hopeful to get some participation for Friday night and also on the auction as well. So it's also a big week for athletics. Wednesday evening, tomorrow evening, hockey opens for the first round of the MIA tournament in Stoneham at 8 p.m. Is that right, Mike? 8 p.m. And then Friday night, we have a doubleheader, men's and women's basketball here at the field house, which will be, that place is, it's gonna be packed. Yeah. I don't think so. And if it has happened, when do they ever get a home and home? You know, they're usually sending someone on the road, but it's going to be, I think, really exciting. Yeah, so.
Get your tickets early for that one.
Get your tickets early.
And in talking about dates between now and March 14th, Friday, March 10, and Saturday, March 11 is the senior show. Having a senior, I know I'm the only one in the room that pays attention to senior stuff. Yes.
March 10th.
Friday, March 10, and Saturday, March 11, the
You
senior show.
can vote on the 11th and also just slide right into the
Right.
senior show.
Can I watch it remotely from my?
You can't vote remotely.
No, I have to.
I'm joking.
You can vote now, right?
You can vote now.
That's right.
You don't have to wait till March
Get
11th.
your absentee ballot or vote in person, that's right. Okay,
I just wanted
Yes,
to
sir.
sort of, I don't know if plug is the right word, but I know a number of our elementary schools are doing readathons right now, and tying in with Read Across America next week. And so if you don't have an elementary school student or you're not, the atmosphere is just infectious. And so I know that the stacks of books in our house and our friends' houses, it's amazing. And it's such a good sort of competitive environment. It just feels healthy. And it's this thing that is one of those connections in our schools that happens all the time, but it's amazing every time, is the connection between the volunteer work that it takes and the educator work that it takes in the space. It would not be as successful as it is without people in both those arenas. So just, for everyone that's involved in it, just a thank you from sort of the district as a whole, from me personally, because I think it's fantastic and it's great. So, thank you.
you're here. Okay, without any further ado, a motion to adjourn.
Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of Tuesday, February 28, 2023.
Second, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Good night.
Good night, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Judy.